Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything special to show, but basically what I can give you update on testnet is, I guess over the last month or two, we spent a lot of our time finalizing the testnet release for the card applet. So Nate put together a pretty big testing suite to make sure that there were no significant bugs, problems with the card. It's pretty easy to have a bug sneak in that causes a memory leak that will, brick a card if something goes wrong. So, we've tested all that out, made sure it's stable. We have that release working. We sent that out to a group of internal testers, mostly our devs and a couple people from the DAO to, help us get some feedback on how that's working. So now we're basically testing that out with the higher level client code. So that's basically like the client applet, which runs on your desktop or laptop to speak with the card, and then the front end, which is sort of the wallet interface above that lets you orchestrate transactions, deposit, and redeem some phonons. So we're basically working on testing out that functionality, doing some bug fixing as we run across that, a bunch of integration testing. And that's pretty much where we're at. And then I guess the other thing that's been taking up some time is working on the supporting services for running a public testnet. So there's like a registration website to enter a rewards address along with card IDs that Nate's been working on. That should basically, allow us to certify when people have completed objectives for the testnet to see what all of the clients that are out there are running. It'll ship logs back to log server that Nate's also been putting together, and that's pretty much the gist of it. Yeah, we can talk future.
Are building a website, or you built a website for testnet?
Oh, we got the website.
Yeah, we do have the website up. It is still being worked on, the last few things, but it's basically up at register.phonon.network, I believe. You'll need some testnet Phonon cards to make use of it.
When we get closer, then we'll definitely have to get that from a communication standpoint, and that way we can send that out as well. Do you guys need help building like the instructions for testnet? Like as far as like when people come in and they start using the cards, well, are you guys? I'm assuming you're writing up the instructions like do this, do this, do this, and then go here for questions and things like that.
Yeah, we could use some help with that. I see Tuesdays just joined. We were talking about that a little while ago. We were going to get back with Tuesdays once we had some more bug fixes to get things working on his machine. But yeah, we could definitely use some help with those instructions. I think we're still ironing out exactly what the testnet objectives should be. We have like a working list, but I've been thinking lately maybe we should switch it up a little bit. But yeah, we could use some help with that, and it'd be good to get some communication support around getting the word out about the testnet to attract some people to buy some cards and perform the tests.
I mean, have you guys? We're going to look at 200 users, right? GridPlus kind of had it open, and then the Phonon testnet kit or the alpha dev kit, whatever it was called, and then they took it down. I thought they reopened sales again. Have you not sold 200 of them yet?
We haven't actually reopened sales yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have the alpha, and then this is the testnet.
Yeah, I think 200 is the target. It's not strictly necessary. It's just kind of a ballpark number, but that'd be a great amount of people to check it out. And yeah, we're getting close to opening sales. The main thing is we just need to sort out the actual manufacturing and provisioning of the cards. Someone needs to create 200 cards and get them signed. So, we have some keys that need to be present for that. So we're just sorting out how to get that done. But within the next week or two, we should be able to do that. And then we can start getting them sold. I guess we've also just not wanted to put that up until the client code is at a point that can support actually using those cards once they're sent out.
Cool. It sounds like Tuesday's pretty close in touch with you, so you'll be our liaison through this process. So
Yeah, I do plan on going through the testnet stuff with somebody else this weekend and trying to get some stuff written up here. But yeah, um, is there any new versions that I should be switching to or re-downloading?
Yeah, we've been making a few updates. There is a new version. I don't know if we fixed all of the things that we need to fix for it to work on your machine correctly. I think we still need an init function, and we need a Windows config file that works.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I mean, we can still use the hacks we used before to get it working. Then the UI is a lot more functional than first time around. So, yeah, we'll circle up about that and try to get those things fixed for like early next week, and maybe we can give you a new version.
Is there going to be a Linux client, or is it just Mac and Windows?
Oh, please. Linux client is the easiest thing in the universe.
Good.
Yeah, there should be a Linux client. It'll make sure of that.
That said, the distribution on Mac is going to be a .app bundle, and the distribution on Windows is eventually, as soon as I get it to cooperate, going to be a standard Windows MSI installer file. I'm not going to write 1,000 ways to distribute via every single package manager on Linux. It's probably just going to be maybe a .deb file and a binary.
Okay, cool.
And then I don't know if anybody had any other questions regarding testnet, but you, Dan, you said that you could give us a rough demo. I don't know if you're still able to do that.
Yeah, sure. I can show you what we got. Yeah, like I said, it's rough. I know there's some bugs to work out, but I'll show you what works so far. Let me get things up on my screen here.
What's up, Rooster? Good to see you jumped in.
Oh, I see. Okay.
On unrelated news, do we know who hosts our domain, like who we purchased it from?
The Phonon.network domain?
Yeah.
I do not know.
Not entirely sure. I think it's probably Namecheap because we've used that in the past, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Well, Polygon's RPC, their main one, polygon-rpc.com, just got jacked.
Oh.
Does someone have phonon.eth?
I believe Justin has either Phonon or Phonon Network or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw somebody nab that a while back. Wants to show every window but the one that matters. A little weird. Alright, we'll just show my whole screen. Alright, can you guys see this okay? Just do it this way for now. Cool, yeah, so this is basically the web UI. I've got a couple testnet cards plugged into a couple card readers on my machine. I started it up over here. It's running on my local machine. Yeah, and this is basically the UI. You can unlock a card. See you talking to my card over here. Here's the basic Phonon interface. It's got a few phonons. One of the bugs I talked about. Some of these don't display all the time. This one down here is actually a native phonon. It's kind of interesting. Values at difficulty level. Gonna get that one to display a little nicer. But yeah, you can sign into MetaMask here. That authenticates now. If I change my network, should switch it over right here. This connect button up here is basically connecting to our like Jumpbox server. This is how you bridge to another Phonon card. That gets you connected. Go back to Rinkeby where I know this works. Yeah, create a Phonon here. Get a certain amount. Okay. That's a bug to fix. Get an explosion and create buttons. It's another bug to fix. But you can confirm a deposit on ETH. That'll be created in here. Displays the shortened version of the pub key value. And then eventually you'll be able to send these one by one to other cards. I can't demo it here. I do believe this actually works, but with two cards connected to one terminal, they have a problem both connecting to the Jumpbox at the same time, I think. So,
my card ID.
Yeah, I don't think it would work because you're not connected to the Jump server.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, that's
so what you just showed, so you basically took that ETH and what we always say is wrapped it in Phonon. Is that basically what you're saying?
yeah, pretty much. So there should be, you can see it sent 0.002 ETH on Rinkeby here. So send it to this address here. This has to basically the Phonon right here has the private key for that address inside of it. And yeah, it's basically wrapped inside this Phonon. And that will exist on my card. This is basically just a listing of all the Phonons on the card. And yeah.
Do we have the functionality yet to like destroy and emit a Phonon and bring it back?
Oh yeah, you know what? I haven't tested this yet, but let's do it live and see if it works. looks like no. Sending me to a black screen. But that does work on the back end. I think it's just a problem with the front end hooking up to it at the moment because there's been a lot of churn in the front end code lately. But yeah, that functionality is in there. We can destroy and emit the private key, and I've tested redeems before on the old front end, but we've been making some changes to make it more usable, and so this must have just gotten mixed up somehow.
And have you kind of like gotten into Etherscan or whatever, just try to like follow it and see what it looks like and show that there is no noticeable link if you're sending, sending around a few times and destroying and
yeah, I've done that before. It's it doesn't look like much. It looks like a normal transaction. It's from my wallet's original address to the address that was derived from my Phonon's public key, and which looks like a normal transfer.
So if you click on the address you sent it to, it just show nothing there.
Yeah, well, it'll have the the ether I just sent to it, but it's a fresh address. It's never been used before. It was just generated off my card, so yeah, shouldn't really show anything else.
I wonder if eventually someone could suss out an address as a Phonon because it only has one transaction in it. Ultimately, more addresses will have more transactions, and the ones that just have one is,
I guess, probabilistically, but
yeah.
The same thing would happen on a fresh HD wallet that's just had one transfer, or any new address used on an HD wallet. I think there are other schemes that typically will create like one-off addresses for that kind of thing too. So I imagine there's a lot of things that could be mixed up with a Phonon that look like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So for testing,
Super cool.
Are we only using ETH, or are you looking at Bitcoin too, or?
Probably not going to do Bitcoin because it turns out that it was very difficult to find a wallet that would integrate with our application to transfer Bitcoin and accept and deliver back the private key information you need from the Phonon. So doing that's probably going to be a little bit more difficult to build some kind of custom integration. It might not, like we just couldn't find an API for a Bitcoin wallet that would allow that. I do want to enable like some more EVM type assets just to demonstrate that the cross-chain stuff works well. So probably going to add like Binance Smart Chain first of all, because it's a pretty light lift. It's just adding a logo and another RPC node on the endpoint on the back end. So pretty much, yeah, I'm going to probably support a whole bunch of EVM chains first because the code is already written to submit those transactions and deposit and redeem them. And then, we'll look at Bitcoin and the other flavors of crypto in the future.
So just to step back, so if you're on Ethereum now and you want to send it to Binance Smart Chain, that transaction would look just like this, where you just send it to an address, and then from the Binance Smart Chain side, it would just look like you're pulling that straight out from there.
Yeah, it would just look like okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, it would look the same on the Binance Smart Chain side. Like if you created this, like basically you would go authenticate and then you would go into MetaMask. I don't think I have it configured at the moment, but you would just switch the network to Binance Smart Chain up here. I believe you can just add that one if you have the info handy. Then you can create a phone on there. It'll show up as a BSC asset here, and if you send it to another Phonon card, it'll just appear that way in their interface. So like eventually this will just be like a heterogeneous list of assets, whatever you have, and presumably in the future we'll do some nicer stuff to group them and show the balances. But we're just showing them one by now to make it clear and easy to work with.
So it would basically you're your own bridge at that point. Am I thinking about that right? Because if you moved ETH from ETH to Binance without going through anybody else, you're your own bridge.
Your asset would still be on Binance.
You're not technically moving ETH from ETH to Binance, right? Because you'd have to create the asset fresh on each chain. But if you had a counterparty who had like a Binance Smart Chain asset in their Phonon wallet and you had ETH and you two swap those, then essentially you're performing the function of a bridge.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So right now it's a simple send transfer, but in the future, we'll create more complex types of transactions where you can propose like a swap and have both cards commit to it in advance and then like transfer those two assets. And that would basically be performing the functionality of a bridge between two peers. But it's actually not really architecturally that similar to a bridge because there's no need for anything in the middle to hop over. You just transact it directly.
Right.
Almost like you're your own Coinbase.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like a cash transaction. You're just handing over the asset and you're swapping them.
Like the assets are still where they are. Just you have like a single place to represent them, and you can move them around.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I guess in that sense, you're sort of like Coinbase because you're just you're swapping the control of the custody of the asset. You're not actually moving it on chain.
Yeah. Super fucking cool. This is so awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Well, glad you think so. It's pretty rough first draft, but it's getting there. And yeah, we're gonna fix some of these little smaller bugs to make this usable. And I think once that gets to a point where it feels stable and all the basic functionality you can see on this page works well enough, we'll be ready to launch public testnet.
Wow, that's super exciting.
From a timeline standpoint, do you think a couple weeks, 3 weeks, a month? What would be your guess?
I feel like I keep saying a couple weeks, and then I ends up taking much longer than that. Yeah, it's probably like 2 or 3 weeks, I think, to get sorted out with all the. Like, the main things is just like all these little like long tail bugs, like just getting things working on multiple platforms, burning down little issues here and there, getting the manufacturing and then shipping of the cards sorted out. Will be the main things, but all the core functionality is basically done. We got through the difficult part of the development cycle, which was certifying that the card applet works correctly and is stable. So yeah, now we're just making changes here, and yeah, we're sort of slowing down a bit on the development side to speed up, because I've been spending a lot of my time focused on hiring some new people for the Phonon team at GridPlus, which I'm hoping we'll get done within the next couple of weeks as well. But remains to be seen with our candidates.
Wow, awesome! Thanks so much for doing this and sharing this. It's so exciting for all of us to see it in person now. It's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, you're welcome.
Yeah, I agree. I would say if you're okay with it, let's keep these weekly meetings going, and we'll probably get more people or less people, who knows, but as long as we keep that line of communication open, and you guys can keep us posted as things are happening. If you need help from us, we'll rely on Tuesdays to be the go-between for now, but if things expand, then we can all help grab a shovel.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. I think let's keep these going on a weekly cadence for now. We'll probably have a little bit more to show by next week, and yeah, I mean, it would be cool if we could talk about coordinating around some future product stuff as things go along. It would be great to get some additional contributors to the project on the code side. And yeah, I guess for now, for communication stuff, we'll coordinate through Tuesdays or however you guys want to do it.
Yep, sounds good.
When can we integrate Azure's Goat NFTs into Phonon?
Yeah, so actually, Senor had a PR up from a while ago with most of an implementation for an NFT standard on Phonon. It's something that Card can already support. It's just like the client has not really passed all of that functionality through. Version of the software I'm showing you here has a couple of, not flaws, but things that are non-optimal that I want to clean up to make it sort of easier to contribute these types of things to the project. So right now, the way deposit and redeem works is that the front end that you're seeing here will make a call back to the client, which is running on your local machine, which will then call out to the blockchain to do an asset transfer on chain and then return that data to the front end so it can display what happened. But the problem with that is it makes it a little bit difficult to add new ways to deposit and redeem. So any new asset you want to add, like on another chain or with another standard or with another with another transaction type. So like the way you would do an NFT transfer is a little different than the way you would do a normal value transfer on ETH. Would require changes to like the main code base of the client. So actually, I've been thinking what I want to do is push that out to the front end a little more so. So basically going to reduce the surface area of the functionality of the client so that it basically just returns the public keys you need to do transfers, and eventually once you destroy the Phonon, returns the private keys you need to complete transfers, and then that functionality can actually move into the front end, or it can even be something that runs on like a third-party website and just makes requests to your client. And so then it would be easy for Senor or anyone else to basically contribute another type of asset, and they can just make calls into the Phonon client as like an SDK. And so they could write, a service that moves NFTs on ETH and makes the proper request to your Phonon client to make that happen. So I think once we get the testnet up and running and we have like this basic functionality all sort of smoothed out, we're probably going to do a V2 of the deposit, redeem, validate transaction interface and try to push that out so that we can welcome some more external contributions into the app for that kind of thing.
Do you think we will have ERC20s able to be transacted for the testnet?
I don't think we're going to have it for testnet because it's the same issue where it's a different transaction type that needs to be implemented. So I'd rather push that out to this, this better externalized API I've been talking about. It would be the same thing for NFTs and ERC20s.
Sure, sounds good.
Anybody else have any other questions before we let him go?
I've got one here. It's Rush. Sorry if I missed. Well, sorry for being late. Mistake.
No worries.
I'm just curious. Sorry if you've already said this, but how does the Phonon protocol call out to the various chain to pull the spot price of that token in order to get the transfer rate correct? Do you understand the question? I don't know if.
I think I do. So the answer is we don't really need the spot price. In order to perform the transaction on chain, we generally rely on an external tool. Actually, well, that's partially true. So, like I was just saying, I want to change how this interface works. The way it currently works is that this front end here will make a call back to the client. When you do a deposit, the origin of those funds is coming from your wallet that already exists. Those funds need to be somewhere before you can send them to the Phonon address, right? So that's relying on MetaMask to form that transaction and send it. So MetaMask is taking care of, the pricing and all of the estimation and all that there. When you do a redeem, that right now takes place in the client, and the client actually forms the transaction to send to the chain. There's a list of configured RPC nodes that it contacts through something called Pocket Network, which is kind of a cool service. It's an RPC node that runs on a decentralized basis that we basically use to contact the various chains that we might want to interact with. And it, on the back end, will check the relevant gas price and stuff to make sure that there's enough ETH in your wallet to complete the transfer and whatnot. But one of the problems with that is that it's then difficult to surface that information back to the user so that they can approve the transaction, right? Because it's happening within the Phonon client instead of happening within the MetaMask interface you might be used to. So that's another reason I want to push this up to the front end so that these other tools can be utilized, which are well optimized for doing this kind of chain interaction, and Phonon can stick to what it's good at in dealing with private keys being created on and destroyed on the card.
Oh, yeah, good explanation. So if does it every time a Phonon wrapped asset is transacted, and let's say it transacts 5 times without ever going back to the chain, does it make a call every time to double check it's gone up or down, or is what it's wrapped as the value of the contained asset for the Phonon?
I see. So yeah, there's basically 3 functions that actually touch the chain in Phonon. So there's deposit, there's redeem, and then there's validate. So deposit and redeem only happen on the way into the system and then onto the way out of the system, respectively. Those are the only times you have to do those, and those are the only rights to the blockchain. So those are the only things that cost gas and have fees, and you really need to care about the spot price or whatever. When you're doing validate, you really only need to validate the denomination of the token is correct. So you don't need to know what the price of ETH is because you know that you're receiving 0.002 ETH. And so all the client has to do is basically validate that amount does belong to this asset on this chain, and that's to prevent someone from trying to send you a fake Phonon that does not actually represent any real assets but just has false metadata about it. So that functionality will remain in the client, but that will be the only time that the client actually has to contact the chain, and that's just a read operation. So you're just checking that this asset really does in fact exist at this address on this chain before you accept it. That's currently not implemented. That's going to have to be something that we put in the next version of the applet or of the client.
Rush, is your question more oriented towards like a DEX trading?
I realized that when during the explanation, I was like, yeah, that would be like a swap or something where you'd have two amounts that are transacting with each other versus just a single transfer, which would be the read only.
Yeah,
Double check. Yeah.
I think anyone who built the DEX would then have to worry about providing oracles to be able to price things accordingly.
Yeah, I think that's right. That'd be a concern for the DEX application to provide between the counterparties.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. Thanks for clarifying all that. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Any other questions? If not, thanks so much for your time, guys. This is extremely helpful, at least for me, and I think others. And I'll set up one for next week, and we'll keep it going.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
All right,
so
cool,
much.
yeah.
That was
Thanks,
awesome.
Setting
Thanks, guys.
Great.
Happy 4th of
No,
Year
thank
American.
you.